Hey everyone, it's Lily here at AIBC. It's a pleasure to be joined by Miroslav. He is from Taylor Wessing and he's a lawyer, attorney. And so you're here with us today in Dubai. You've been joining us for AIBC, but you're based in Germany. So you're going to give us a bit of an insight into the comparisons between the UAE and what's happening here in terms of regulation and what's happening in Europe. So how do they compare? Are there a lot of differences between how regulations being adopted?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Actually, there are a lot of differences. So what we see, because I'm practicing both in Germany and in the UK, there are a lot of differences when we draw a parallel between Europe as a continent and in terms of jurisdictions, EU and the UK and the UAE. So whereas in Europe, we see that regulators are reacting to developments. So basically, developing regulatory frameworks to basically ensure that activities fall within the remit of the regulation. I have a feeling that in the UAE and overall in the GCC region in the last couple of years, the regulators and the government really tried to provide some level playing field beforehand, basically to lure in foreign companies coming here, which we see it as materializing now. We see a growing number of businesses moving to this region, which really has managed to place itself as a hub for AI and crypto companies in the last couple of years. And I would say that this is pretty much the main difference. Of course, if we compare UAE, especially with the EU as a jurisdiction, it's not something that EU could replicate. You know, EU with 27 EU member states with the complex legislative making process, the current regulations are pretty much in terms of timeline, the best the EU can do. In the UK, which is a single jurisdiction now, we also see that this takes time, right? Because of political instability. These are all things that UAE as a jurisdiction, as a system, does not have. And this is a competitive advantage that we see in today's world.
Yeah, I think as with the UAE being this kind of a newer state in comparison to anywhere else in Europe, it does have the ability to adopt and adapt way quicker. There hasn't been as many rules in place for as long, but when you go back to Europe, it is a very different story. I get to go back. I hosted London Blockchain Conference, and it was like I had to switch my mindset because everything which is very open and changing here in the UK, it's kind of a lot more pressure on regulation and how it even could be adopted. It's not even a question of like, yeah, we're going to do it. It's like, oh, this is going to be a challenge. And so in terms of challenges, what are some of the challenges that you've seen for Web3, crypto, blockchain companies, and how can that be overcome, whether it be in Europe or anywhere else in the world?
Yeah, I would say one of the greatest challenges that we see in day-to-day practice is basically with companies that are operating in more than one jurisdiction. So if you're operating, for instance, from London or from Frankfurt or Paris or from Dubai, but serving clients in different jurisdictions, different markets, you need to obey by different rules that are very conflicting in some areas. So just by way of example, before Brexit, we had a lot of financial institutions operating from London, covering the entire EU market. This is not possible anymore. They had to adapt. Now we also see that with crypto companies in the past, the talent pool in London is really the biggest you can get in the region. The problem is now you have a set of regulations in the UK, set of regulations in the EU that are not the same. And also moving forward, we see that the evolving regulatory landscape now in the UK is not going to be really 100% in line with the EU framework. If we speak about the UAE and the GCC region, we see that here, again, to my point, government and the regulators are really trying to create an environment in which the innovation is going to be nurtured and flourished. And hence, the regulations are designed in a different way, with a different focus. So focus is on the innovation, on the level playing field, rather than on the limitations that we see in more mature jurisdictions like US, UK, or the EU. I think this is one of the biggest problems, especially for small businesses, because you cannot have team of dedicated lawyers, qualified in a number of jurisdictions that would cover each and every topic. And this is definitely one of the biggest problem. Now we see that with the new president in the U.S., also there are some important developments that we're going to need to follow in the coming years. And if we see development of some new regulations there, this is definitely going to have a spillover effect on the rest of the world.
You've got your work cut out for sure, because it just is always changing. As you say, it varies so much from between jurisdictions. Even how they utilize blockchain technology and technology in general was very different, whether you're in East or West. It's always changing. So yeah, you do have a challenging job. But the positive is, I think people in the space are a lot more pro-regulation now than they ever have been. Why do you think that's the case? Do you think people are actually realizing, like, hold on, unless we regulate, we're not going to achieve much?
Yeah. Well, I would say, like, in the crypto space, maybe one of the main reasons is that in terms of fundraising, once you're regulated, once you have this stamp on your firm, it's much easier to raise funds. It's much easier to get the credibility. It's much easier basically to onboard new customers. Like me personally, when I was choosing my first wallets, my first exchanges, you really, not because you're a lawyer, but you really want to know, okay, so where is this firm based? So do they have some sort of license? Are they supervised by someone? And then you see that you get this higher level of credibility in terms of your cooperation partners, in terms of your customers, and also relationship with your investors, which is, especially in the early stage, very important. Later on, you move to Series A, Series B. It's then much easier to expand to other markets. And one important point is that if you're expanding to other markets and you have a regulated status in your home jurisdiction, it's much easier to communicate with domestic regulators. It's much easier to get a license. It's much easier to leverage your resources that you have in-house, like compliance people, risk management people, legal people, a C-suite, so that you have, for instance, in Dubai, and then you're expanding to Europe or you're expanding to the UK. You have a bunch of things that you can basically use to the certain extent. You have a very, very good starting point. Yeah, it definitely makes it more legitimate if you have that behind you. And obviously you're based in Germany and you travel all the way here for AIBC. So why do you come to this region? Why is Dubai an important place to come to? And why come to conferences in general? Yeah, so why come to conferences? Usually to speak at the panels, but and also with the network with industry experts, colleagues alike, and potential clients and existing clients. But I would say, why coming to ABC Dubai? It's a great question. It's exactly because this has really managed to become a hub for this industry in the last couple of years. We see a number of very innovative, eager people, basically converging in this buzzing city of Dubai. Also Abu Dhabi, free zones, providing a very good starting point for many businesses that are, starting, that are in their initial phase. And I think that in the coming years, especially conscious of the fact that the talent pool here is increasing as we speak, that we're going to probably see more firms, UAE-made firms, probably scaling and then expanding to more mature jurisdictions. In the past, like 10, 20, 30 years ago, financial institutions were coming here, usually to serve high net worth individuals, private wealth, and so on and so on. Now we see that some firms from here are expanding to other markets. Truth be told, a bit more to Africa, Asia, but I don't see a reason why some more mature jurisdictions, especially like the EU and the UK, won't be the next frontier.
Yeah, that's actually so true. Now, a lot of things are being exported from here in terms of businesses, rather than before. All of the big companies were just trying to be drawn, like, please come to this region. Now it's spreading out. Well, thank you so much for your time, Miroslav. It's been a pleasure having you here at AIBC. I can't watch. Is your panel later, or has it already been? Have I missed it? Oh, I've missed it. Damn. Well, I'm sure it was amazing, and I'm sure I'll see you again at another AIBC. So thank you so much.
Thank you.